Well, hello everyone. In this live Q&A, we are going to focus right off the bat on a question that has driven so many people. Okay, that's awesome. Let's try this again. Every time I go live, I swear I forget that I have my browser open, and then I go live on my website as well. Well, let's get focused again. So today, the feature question, the thing that we're going to be talking about right at the beginning, is something that I know is happening a lot because we're getting consultations, and that thing is study permit refusals. There's only so many spots, and I know the government doesn't announce that, but the reality is many people are getting their study permits refused for a wide variety of reasons. I'm not going to address all the reasons because if it happened to you, you know what they are, at least what has been listed on your refusal letter. But what I want to talk about today is what you do after you get this refusal letter. Well, what do? I did a little search on the internet just to see what was out there, and oh my goodness, there is a ton of helpful advice out there from a lot of people recommending what you should do. Well, in the video today, I'm going to share with you what I think your approach should be as you're going through this process, trying to identify where do I go from here. All right, let's jump over here. And the first thing on the list is the question of GCMS notes. And in fact, this is the question that was asked when I was fielding questions for upcoming feature questions on our YouTube channel. So what I want to identify is, in particular, and I'm just going to pull this up here, the specific question that was asked. And the question, which led to me being able to explain all this, was, do we need to wait for GCMS notes for a rejected application in order to set a consultation? My GCMS notes are delayed. All right, so basically what we're getting at here is the simple fact that when you are getting those refusals, you are not getting the entire story. It's with the advanced analytics and the artificial intelligence and all of the batching and the way that they process applications in large volumes, it results in refusals coming. And we have heard rumors that as high as 25% of refusals can be wrong in law. In other words, they relied upon a ground that doesn't even exist for your situation. So the very first thing you need to do is look and see, okay, what they're saying here, is there some element of reasonableness to this? Does it make sense that this refusal occurred and, based on my facts? If it says, well, my application is being refused because of family ties in Canada and I have no family ties, then that's going to be an issue, right? That's something for sure where you know right off the bat it's not correct. So do you request the GCMS notes? Because at times officers will have additional information in there that is not on your actual letter. And if that's the case, then yes, you need to get them, but you have a problem. And the problem is pretty simple. It can take right now up to 90 days or more to actually get those notes back. And when you get a refusal based on the other options that are available, which I will explain in just a little bit, you may not have enough time to actually get those GCMS notes back before you decide to proceed forward. Why? Well, there's a whole host of reasons. If it's a study permit refusal, you're going to miss your admissions date. Maybe you're pushing up against timelines that you just can't move for a variety of reasons, both personal or with the institution that you want to study at. So requesting the GCMS notes, there's never any harm in doing it, but relying on them and waiting on them to come back before you take your next step, before you make your next decision, well, don't wait for them. It's as simple as that. So should you request the GCMS notes, there's no harm in doing it. Go ahead and make the request, but do you wait before you take the next step? No. If it comes back quick, great. If it comes back before you've taken this next step, and what is the next step? It's reconsideration. What is reconsideration? Well, if you go to I'm going to flip back here to our website. I want to point out a fantastic article right here that Cedric wrote in June that is on judicial reviews and in particular requests for reconsideration. So if you want specific details on how to go about this, the strategy, what you include in that reconsideration request, Cedric drafted a step-by-step guide to prepare your own reconsideration request. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that up, but this is the next stage. So reconsiderations are basically when you go back, and it's usually through a web form, you will submit a request just like that, but it's not just please reconsider it. Like, you need to very, very carefully justify how the officer made a mistake in how they assessed your application, and not, oh, I forgot this document, it got refused. Well, can you please reconsider it? I'm sorry, I forgot the document. No, ain't gonna fly. So when you're applying for reconsideration, you need to identify what was wrong in the way the officer made the decision on your study permit. So that's one method, obviously applying for reconsideration. One of the challenges with reconsideration is, just like GCMS notes, you can't wait on getting a decision on your reconsideration request before you take another step. And I'm going to jump ahead and I'll just show you 4, which is applying for judicial review. But we're not quite there yet because you have another choice to make. If, and we do this a lot for our clients, and you can easily slide over to our firm, there's a link in the description below to book a consult, but you need to assess and really see, oh, did I do something wrong? Was that refusal justified in law? Was there reasonable grounds, for that officer on a balance of probabilities to believe, or to make the decision, I should say, that they did? Did it make sense? Was there grounds to make the decision that they made? And so that's what we do within our firm. We help clients to assess. We go through your application in detail, and then after that, we make the determination. What do? Do we request GCMS notes? Yes, in almost every situation we do. 2, do we apply for reconsideration, or do we decide to file a judicial review application? Now, when it comes to judicial reviews, there are timelines, and this is the issue. If you submit a reconsideration request, you guys, you will be very, very surprised to hear that the response to that reconsideration request is all over the map. So there are times where you're going to get that decision super fast. And in fact, I had an express entry application refused a few years back. I submitted a reconsideration request and said, hey, look, you guys have got issues here. You should not have refused this. I don't think it was reasonable. And I'm going to have to judicially review this if you persist in confirming that this is a refusal that you're not willing to overturn. Well, in a week and a half, we got the passport request back, and literally the client was landed through the e-COPR process. I would say probably within 2 weeks of filing the reconsideration request. Flash forward to today, I had another express entry application that was rejected, and they alleged misrepresentation by my client. That one I had taken over from an immigration consultant who had sadly passed away. The client had reached out to me to see if I would take over it. Well, there was a ton of problems with the application, leaving that aside. But ultimately, they alleged that the client had misrepresented when the consultant had filed the application. And obviously, a 5-year bar, I did not agree with that at all. I felt that the decision that they made was egregious and not based in law. So we filed a judicial review application. That judicial review application was eventually, it was consented to by Department of Justice lawyers and sent back for reconsideration. Well, at that time, then I should say at that time, that was like last year, almost 1 full year later, I get an email notification saying that the express entry application was being reopened. So you can see the variation in time in terms of how long it's actually going to take to get your reconsideration considered can be a massive amount of time. And when it comes to judicial review, you have a very, very short timeline in which to act on it. And I'm going to show you right here. I'm just going to slide right over to the Department of to the federal court website, and you'll see right here that if your decision right here, your application for leave and judicial review may be served on the other party and filed, okay, with the registry of the court within 15 days for a matter arising in Canada and 60 days for a matter arising outside Canada. So typically study permit applications would be, if you're outside of Canada, you're going to have 60 days to file that judicial review. But you have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that you're not going to wait for a decision on the reconsideration because you may lose time with your judicial review. Now, the last little thing that I want to address for you guys is that, and I'm going to pull off the judicial review, is that after going through things, maybe you've requested reconsideration, maybe even before, you need to make the decision as to whether or not, like I said, there were grounds for them to refuse. And if there were, then maybe your best option is simply to refile your application. And if you refile it, then you have an opportunity to address any of the concerns in the GCMS notes if you've gotten them back quickly, or after us. When I'm going through this process, you guys, I essentially put on my old immigration officer hat. I review everything in the application that the client would have submitted on their own, and the lawyers in my office do the same. And we then assess whether or not that refusal was correct. And I'll be honest, in many circumstances, you guys, that decision was actually correct and justifiable. It was a reasonable decision. Why? Because maybe you didn't include all of the information that you should have included. Maybe there were documents that were that you'd included that actually worked against you. So you thought they were helpful, but really they just confirmed with an officer that no, you didn't have temporary intent. Maybe you didn't provide a sufficient ties, and all of those grounds for refusal. I'm not going to talk about those. This is more about what to do after. But often we'll do that assessment and we will realize very quickly that the application itself was just, it was a poor application. So at that stage, then we don't waste time with reconsideration. We don't waste time with judicial reviews, filing leave applications. Instead, we focus on revising, updating, correcting the problems, and strengthening the new application. So sometimes that's it. So ultimately, guys, that's kind of the approach that I take. And when I'm looking at the options that are available, so people will often ask, okay, that's great, Marco. What should be our next step? Well, it's pretty simple. I recommend that you slide over to our office if you do have a refusal, and click on the link to book a consult and join us. Let us help you. Ultimately, it's hard for me to say what any person should do in the context of a live stream just like this or a recording. But the most important thing for you to realize is that when you are in this situation, you have to act quickly. You can't wait. You can't delay. You need to take action. And a consultation is a great place to start because we can go through things, give you a little bit of direction, and let you know whether or not we think you should just reapply, or whether you should proceed forward with reconsideration, and even, if necessary, if you have no other options, filing a leave application for judicial review. So that's kind of where we're at today, guys. And I hope that was helpful. But yeah, if your study permit is refused, which we get a lot of these consults, hopefully this information will at least give you a little bit of direction. Remember the blog post, and if you Google search what to do if your visa application is rejected, you'll probably get one of the old podcasts that I did. I remember a few years back, I had Richard Curlin join me, and we addressed a lot of these different things within that podcast as well. And we've done it a number of times after that. So that's on the Canadian Immigration Podcast. All right. Well, hopefully that was helpful. Okay, let's see who we have joining with us today. Let's take a look and see. All right. Now, let's just see here. We'll open this up and give some shout outs here. All right. Okay, we've got Chloe. Chloe's already asking questions about legal fees. So she says, good day, temporary resident visa. I started from 2000 as your legal fees. Can you explain this further? Is this for work permit process for one applicant, no dependency? Yeah, we say starting out because sometimes there are family members and dependents. Sometimes there are other factors at play. Sometimes people will have inadmissibility issues we have to deal with. Maybe there'll be a prior DUI in another country that we'll have to address. So that's why we always say starting at, but generally speaking, for an individual with a straightforward application, and what's a straightforward application? No one calls us hardly with straightforward applications. It's always difficult ones. In those circumstances, yeah, those are the fees that we typically start with. Okay, we've got Namal. Good to see you. I am doing very, very good today, Namal. Let's see what else we have here. Amy says, good morning, Mark. Hoping to see the IM1 visa and passport soon. I hope so too. Okay, let's see who else we have here. Yeah, and Gani here, he says, how long to take reconsideration process time after refusal? you heard from me, right? My one reconsideration request took almost a year, which is, you know, in this case, the clients made decisions to move down to the US and not even stay here anymore. So they were here temporarily as a foreign worker. Okay. Lovely says, when I ask questions, how do I get an answer sent back to me? Well, when you post a question that is of general importance that I identify as being of benefit to everybody who is watching, then I will give that answer right here in our live stream today. Otherwise, if you have a specific legal question that really is only of benefit to you, that's about your unique specific circumstances, that's when I direct people to slide over to our firm website right here. I'll shrink this down just a little bit. And from here, you can book a consult with one of the lawyers in the firm. All right. So that is what I recommend you look at doing. Okay. Keep zipping through here. Okay. Afroza says, hey, Mark, your videos are so helpful. If you kindly talk about the restoration part after refusal of study permit extension, that's exactly what we covered. So I think I hit on that. And remember, with the restoration, also go back to the blog post that I talked about right on our firm website. So if we slide over here, you can go to blog. So resources blog right here, and then you can even search. And so reconsideration, let's see if it pulls it up. If we do a little search here, it's thinking right here. My visa application refused, prepare request for reconsideration. So there we go. And you can see there's a ton of other topics that are out there as well. If you look back, if we do that search, what do you need to do to apply for a study permit to get it in time? You know, there's basically, can your application be refused, proof of education? Like there's a bunch of things, and you can always search, do a word search to go through all the blog posts. And we have produced a ton of blogs over the last stretch here. So, all right. So that is, that's kind of where we're at. All right. Okay. Let's keep zipping through here. Let's see who else we have here. Better make sure I'm on the right spot. Yes. Okay. So yeah, good to see you as always, Amit, down in Virginia. Okay. Amy says, does a passport request mean that the express entry application is approved? Yes, it does. Okay. Zakaria says, hello, Mark. When applying for a study permit, do I need to submit personal bank statements of my sponsor or the business account? When it comes to applying for a study permit, I always like to see that the applicant has the funds in their own account, that they have control over them, that they have the ability to use them, that they're liquid, all those kinds of things. Money tied up in a business account is not helpful. I don't like that because there's no clear designation as to how that money is going to be used, how much of that money will be available. And so I never like to leave it in business accounts. I always like to have it as much as possible in the personal account of the applicant themselves. Now, if there's a sponsor who's sponsoring, then they would also want to do it. I still like it for the applicant if they show that they've got those funds in their account. But if it's a sponsor, like a parent, for example, or a very close relative, then in those circumstances, always the personal account. I never want it in the business account. Okay. Amit says, good to hear from you as always, especially on my birthday. All right, my friend. Happy birthday. I don't have a happy birthday sound effect here. I don't think so. Let's see. What else? Oh, that doesn't work. Okay, here, I got one for you. There's the birthday. So just to clarify with these reading glasses, these are kind of funny. I've been trying to figure out my sight with contacts and things like that. And I'm getting older. And so my eyes are doing weird things. And so I've got, usually I have these kind of multifocal lenses with my contacts, but I had to move away from them for the time being until I go up to see some specialists up in Calgary in a week and a half. And then we'll see, I might have some surgery to help with my eyes. But anyways, so bear with me as I've got my fancy reading glasses here. Okay, let's keep zipping through here. Canary Cobos says, hey, Mark, my postgrad expires on October 30th. Received the interim work authorization. When are we supposed to receive round 2 email? Anyone received it yet? It's you just got to be patient. If you went back and watched the video, Canary, I can't remember the exact date, but on our website, on the YouTube channel, you'll remember that we actually did a a detailed video on that topic. I'm going to flip over and I'll just show you what I'm talking about here. So if we go through here and you look, if you scroll through, depending on where you're at, you can do a search. And then so if we go here, postgrad work permit, let's just see what comes up. Okay, so the 18-month extension detailed analysis. So this is where Alicia and I actually went through, and I remember in these videos, when I went through it in detail, I talked about that. Also, this one right here, the answers you want to know, these are the things that weren't covered or weren't readily available at the time in which we did the detailed analysis. So definitely slide over there, take a look. I know that I had a spreadsheet or a kind of a breakdown of timing when things were expected. I wonder if I can pull it up. Let's see. I know lots of people still have questions, and remember that the course, remember that the postgrad extension course is also available all the way through to the end of the year. You can have access to that course. I'm just going to quickly pull up all my DIY courses, postgrad 18-month extension. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that I have the yeah, I think that was a technical briefing right here. Let me pull up the PowerPoint and see if, let's just see if it opens up here. Open says me, and see if I can shift over. Let's see if I can just adjust this. And let's take a look at the technical briefing and let's just see what, I know that there was a, yeah, okay, here we go, perfect. Okay, let's take a look at this one. I'm gonna try to switch this over to PowerPoint. Okay, there we go. Ooh, okay, it's not perfect, but you guys will figure it out. Okay, let's see if we can expand that just a little bit. Okay, so you can see here when it comes to round 2, so postgrad is expiring between October the 2nd, and December 31st, but passport or address needs to be updated. You can see right here, mid-September is when you send out that updated address and passport details in the IRCC secure account. And then early November is when the work permits are mailed out. So they say mid-September, and we were really, really close right now, really close. So any day now, any day, my friend. All right, there we go. Nothing like going right to the source. Hey, okay, hopefully that was helpful. All right, we can close that. We don't need that anymore. Let's see. Next is Jonathan. He says, hello, Mark, from Dakar. 12 weeks after study permit submission, still no final decision what to do. Hey, it depends on, well, I know the processing times, and I wish they would do it by country. It makes no sense to me, but there is not a lot that you can do, while you're waiting. That's why in, our past videos, we drilled in so frequently that it's absolutely critical that you start as soon as possible. And once again, if we flip over here to our blogs, you will see here, let's just see here, proof. Okay, what do you need to apply for a study permit to get it in time? All right, so this blog post by Chanel that she drafted goes in detail about a number of things, but you can see here that for our study permits, and yes, this is kind of small, let's enlarge it here. For our recommendations, we always look at trying to do it at least 5 months before the anticipated start date. And that way you can try to avoid some of the problems that people run into, just like you're running into right now. So we do the best that we can with our clients to give ourselves as much time as possible. But yeah, Jonathan, there's not a lot that you can do other than wait. Okay. Elizabeth, good to see you as always. All right. Okay, let's see here what we've got here. Steve. Hello. Steve says, a million thanks, Mark. My son Richard got his e-Coper on Monday. Yeah. Okay, let's hear some applause. That's awesome. Okay. We're ecstatic. To anyone who needs help with their application, do not hesitate to book a consult that's worth every last cent. Thanks. I appreciate that, Steve. It was a pleasure working with you guys. I know it was a little touch and go there, wasn't it? But in the end, it was successful, and all that hard work paid off. And I just loved, going through the collaborative process with you when you returned our firm. So thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. And I wish you guys all the best, and please stay in touch. Okay. Stay in touch. All right. Those of you who are wondering, what the heck is Mark talking about collaborative review? If we slide over here once again to our website, right at the top, you can see we've got a heading called Our Approach. And this is exactly the same thing that I did with Steve and with his son. This video talks about how it works. It's a little bit of a different process because you work directly with a lawyer in the firm. There's no middle people. And we work together to help prepare and submit your application. But the best part of all, you guys, is that you control it. It's not hidden in our representative portal with us not being able to share information with you. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's just not true. Even with a representative portal, a good representative should be always providing you with an exact copy of everything for review before it's submitted. If they don't, they're a crappy representative. So if you're working with an immigration consultant or a lawyer, and I can't see any world where a lawyer would not provide you the opportunity to review something before it's submitted. But at the end of the day, you should always know what's going in and have had a chance to vet it, because it's you that's on the line if there's any potential error in it, that could lead to misrepresentation. Like that example I shared with at the beginning of the video here, where one of my clients had used an immigration consultant who just filed the application, hadn't really given him a good chance to vet it and to go through it. And then he had a refusal and a 5-year bar for misrepresentation, which of course I do not accept, and neither did the lawyers in the firm. And we filed a judicial review application with one of our colleagues in Calgary who specializes in judicial reviews. We now do this in-house within our firm, but yeah, which of course the decision was overturned because it was garbage. It was wrong. And too often you guys just roll over and accept the decision of immigration and say, oh, sorry, not much that we can do. Well, that's trash. If the decision was wrong in law, and it was simply not a reasonable decision given the facts and circumstances, or they misinterpreted the law or the facts of your situation, which happens a lot in this AI world, judicial review and challenging that is the way to go. So, all right. Anyways, thank you so much, Steve. It was great to have you connect in and just give me that shout out. I really appreciate that, because a lot of people think, oh, what the heck? Like, I can get all this information for free online, right? Why do I need to retain Holthe Immigration Law, Mark's law firm, or him to review my application? It's straightforward, right? There's no problems, right? Well, my goodness, if I showed you guys, and I think I'm going to start a separate I got all these ideas. I think I'm going to revisit my podcast and just talk about the challenges of immigration, and talk about, in generalities, the situations that I see every day, kind of like battling in the trenches. I think I might do a podcast, special podcast episode on that, but I'll keep you posted. Okay, let's see. All right, next here is Fahim. He says, does a study permit restoration has to meet the initial requirements of the study permit and then apply for a visitor record? Okay, Fahim, I'm not sure if I understand what you're asking there. A reconsideration, a study permit restoration, yes, it has to meet all the requirements for for restoration, but I'm not sure what you mean by applying for a visitor record. When you apply to restore within the 90-day period, that's typically authorized. There's been situations where they've opened it up for, people to restore their status outside of that under special measures, but generally the 90 days. The act of restoring is really, that's what's going to put you back in place with your study permit. There's no need at that stage to then file a separate visitor record, because ultimately you're still restoring the visitor, right? So even though it's not technically a restoration. So yeah, but the application needs to be even more solid, rock solid. That's how I approach it. Okay. Hey, Mark, thanks for the video from Singapore. Good to see you, Hans. Good to see you. Thank you. Okay. Belen says, hey, Mark, if I need to process a study visa, but I have a work permit, can you help me with that? I would not like to book a consult as I do not have questions about it. Well, you can always just reach out. The reason, here's why I always recommend that people come to our website, click on Speak to a Lawyer, and book a consult. And the reason that I do this, the reason that I recommend people come and book consults, is for one simple reason. It's because there may be other options other than the one you've settled on. There might be something else that you're considering or haven't considered. And so why would I take $1,500 or $2,000 to assist you with whatever application you want to submit, when after looking through the facts, I realize, Belen, that, well, this actually isn't the best option for you, or there might be another alternative. And especially if you're on a work permit now and you're looking to apply for a study permit, well, I want to talk to you about why you want to do that and how it's going to help you advance your, your long-term immigration goals. It's all about the end game, right? It's all about what you want to have happen long in the future. And sometimes the decisions you make right now with the applications you submit will either open up future opportunities or close them. And so that's why we always have someone book a consultation, Belen, it's really, really important for us to be able to understand. And I'll be honest, we don't take every client, right? We don't. And it gives us an opportunity to help and assist someone. But at the end of the day, if we don't feel like we're a good fit for them, then then we don't always take the people that come to our office that want to retain our firm. We always make sure that we're a good fit. And I'll kind of give you a little bit of a code for that. Well, what does a good fit mean? Well, if someone has misrepresented on a previous application and refuses to fix it, well, that's an example of where Mark ain't going to represent them, because I will not submit any application that is not 100% true, complete, and correct. And that's just non-negotiable. Everything is 100% above board. It's ethical. And if I see problems in the past, we will correct them. So all those come into play, Belen. But I sure hope that you book a consult and just see why we do it. All right. Okay. Fish. Oh my goodness. This is actually hilarious. I had to read it twice before I posted it because I wasn't sure if you were like mad at me or if he says, when notification bell rings and says Mark is here, you shut your damn work. And here his words: I am not advocating you guys to not keep working in your jobs to watch this. How are you, Mark? Again, people, Mark's guidance made me a PR. Subscribe to his programs now, please. Fish. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. There's, like I said, there's so many choices out there, right? There's so many people that will, in many cases, they will offer assistance cheaper than our firm. And I make no excuses for the fees that we charge. I know there's others that charge way more. But we really care about what we do, Fish. And I just absolutely love to hear the success people have in their journeys immigrating to Canada. So wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay. Prashant says, hey, sir, hope you're doing well. I'm doing awesome. Thank you. All right. Okay. There's no topic here, Sebastian. He says, hey, Mark, sorry to get a bit off topic here. I'm an express entry applicant and eligible for CEC and FSW. My common law is a Canadian citizen, non-accompanying. Should I put enough money in my proof of funds for two? Yes, go ahead and do that. So I always make sure that they're sufficient. But remember, if you are eligible for CEC, then you do not need to provide proof of funds at all. So, and if you have an offer of employment, if you have a job offer that meets the requirements of express entry, then you also don't need to provide settlement funds. But yeah, that's the advice for that one. You're very welcome, Jonathan. Okay, Sebastian says that'd be in my profile for EE. Haha, sorry, no problem, Sebastian. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Katan says, if an application is declined several times, oh, okay, that's hard. Every single time that it gets refused in those situations, Katan, I'm like, oh, please just retain us. Let us help you. Let us get it right the first time, or at least give you the best shot of success the first time. Okay. If an application is declined several times as the chosen course is not related to the applicant's educational background, is there a solution? Officer now states they don't believe the app has ties. They are looking for every opportunity they can to refuse your application. They're just switching and putting new grounds in. When the reality is, when you have one refusal, it is even harder to get the second one approved. Now, people will say, well, no, because you can fix it. Well, yes, that's right. But what I mean is, you're already up against a refusal where one officer says, I don't think that that you really meet the requirements of this visa. And then another officer will look at the previous application, and although their discretion cannot be fettered by that other officer, they can't just refuse by saying, oh, that other officer looked at your application and they didn't accept you, as being eligible, or being able to demonstrate that you have temporary intent. So therefore, I'm not going to. They can't do that. They have to look at it fresh. But it makes things way more difficult. And remember, if you put and the reason I say it's twice as hard and 3 times as hard every time you apply is because if you would put all of that information in the second time when you submitted your first one, you would have had a far greater chance of success, right? But so yeah, boy, you guys, we deal with this all the time in the office. Okay, Prashant says, hey, I submitted my file application on June 14th. Okay, July, August, September. How many months do we say? 5. Okay, and opted for September intake. Since I didn't receive my passport request, my PPR, okay, okay, I requested for a deferment, but from my DLI, there is no response. So should I inform to IRCC? Oh, Prashant, this is something that just irritates me. I hope that you went to a public school, either a university or a college, and that you're taking at least a 2-year program. So I've had that discussion in the past. But yeah, when it comes to the whole issue of deferment, like I don't know what to say other than that school should be responding to you. I don't know if you have an education agent that's assisted you, but that school should be responding to you. And if they have not responded to you, then that's a huge issue. There's not much. What do you say to IRCC? If the school hasn't agreed for the deferment, then what options do you have? So this is something you entirely have to work out with the school. Okay. All right. So this is a great one. Kabir says, and I'm just going to ring this one right here. This is an exact situation, Kabir, where I recommend you slide over and book a consultation with our firm, because when it comes to assessing your own eligibility, we need a whole lot more than your CRS score and your IT work experience. Okay. So I recommend you slide over, book a consult. The links are in the description of the YouTube live here. Okay. All right. So Gaia says, I have received my study permit from Canada Immigration, but I have withdrawn from my program from the University of Alberta. Okay. Right there. Book a consult. Let's talk about it. Okay. All right. Prashant says, one more question. After how many days we raise a web form for result? I have waited for 90 days and still I don't receive passport requests. Should I raise web form, although my file is under review since the 10th of September? Yeah, I'll be honest, Prashant, you can raise a web form. It's kind of hit or miss how fast they're going to respond. The processing times for study permits, when they say it's, and I think right now, if we look at the processing times, let's just slide over here and just pull up processing times IRCC, and let's just see if it's still 12 weeks. It probably is, which is code for they can't be bothered to update it. And they try to keep it general so that they don't have to consistently update the processing from outside Canada. So it's still, yeah, it's still sitting at 12 weeks. Last updated September the 6th, which basically means this is every country in the world. And in your situation, yeah, like 60% of the, basically 80% of the applications theoretically are kind of what they're looking at processing. So overall, depending on the country, this is general. Your country could be more, Prashant. So even though it says that there is 12 weeks processing for a study permit outside of Canada, that's for every country in the world, and it's an average. So it's possible that your country, the processing could be longer than that. All right. Okay. All right. Augustine, thanks for the positive feedback. Felicia says, hello, Mark. I just wonder if you know that RC officers are working or sleeping. Your question is as good as mine. Okay. And then how many months can a Canada study permit stay? It just depends on the program, my friend. It's based on your program of study. Angel says, getting a BVL before medical request, is the application headed for refusal? It all comes down to what you put in the original application. Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah, Chloe. There are agents, not lawyers, who charge $8,000. Hey, they can charge whatever they want. If you guys are willing to pay for it, seriously, if you guys are willing to pay for it, then they'll charge you whatever. So thank you, Mark. Looking forward to scheduling a consult with you. You bet, Chloe. Like we try to, we recognize that we've been at this game as lawyers for years and years and years. And so the fees that we charge are commensurate with that level of experience. And what it means is someone might charge you $100 for a consult, and I might charge you $300 for a consult. But the reality is, with the almost 20 years of experience that I have, I can definitely cut to the chase a lot faster because of the experience, because of the knowledge, because of all of the effort I've put into really understanding immigration in a far shorter period of time. I can give you answers right on the spot, give you direction, give you advice, give you reasoned advice, not just spewing off whatever the website says. All right. Okay. Kabir says, is there any way to secure 50 points for a job offer? Is there any way to score these points without completing a year? Yeah. If you have a labor market impact assessment associated with your job, you don't need to have worked for the company for a year. Okay, Kabir says, when exactly Canadian experience starts to give you points? Is it only after completing 1 year? Yes. So you have to have worked for a year before you get comprehensive ranking system points for Canadian experience. However, the job offer is different. And with the labor market impact assessment that's been approved, you can, depending on the circumstances and the type of LMIA, get points for that as soon as the LMIA is issued and approved. Okay, Katamba says, hey, Mark, well done. Do I need to show a bank statement with all the tuition for study permit application as a minimum balance? Thank you. I always go overboard, you guys. When it comes to funds, that's one thing you can control, and I will put way more money in than I need potentially for school. The problem people run into is when they're just scraping the bottom of the barrel. So basically they've got their, if it's through the student direct stream, they've got their $10,000, GIC, whatever it is, that's required. And maybe they've paid their tuition, but that's kind of it. Like, I make sure that I have enough to cover the whole first year's tuition and whatever extra expenses that I need at a minimum for that first year. So paid tuition, money in the bank, GIC, whatever it is, that depending on the type of study permit application that you're submitting. But once again, click on the link below to book a consult. We can dive into the weeds and help you with your specific situation, because every school is different. Every program's different. Every person's different. The country you come from can impact on what you need to do when you're providing funds and things like that. Okay. All right. Nirali asks the question that many people ask. My CRS is 485. When can I expect an ITA? No one can tell you that. We know right now with the rounds of invitations. And if we look at the rounds of invitations here, once again, I'll slide over and let's just pull them up. I look at these suckers so often that it's always pops up really easily in the feed. If you scroll down here, you'll see that the last one we had was August 31st. Today's the 14th. So we should very well see. The question is, are they going to go as big as they did? So if we go back to the previous rounds and flip those up, you can see here where we're at. So they did a big round of invitations, and it's slowly dropping down. But as long as they keep doing these no program specified draws to get down to the level where you're at, Nirali, and let me flip back here one more time, and let's go back and look at how many people. So before, on August the 29th, before the 2,750 were drawn out, you can see how many people are still ahead of you. So we don't know. We can see 490, 480. There's still 9,000, 5,000, 14. You can do the math, right? There's over 20,000 probably people that are ahead of you. So for you to be drawn through the regular no program specified process, it's going to be pretty tough. But here's the thing. We know the minister is going to be doing more targeted strategic draws, and maybe you have a knock code that fits into one of those categories if he decides to do that. I also don't know if you're in Canada or outside Canada. So there's a lot of different factors, but always I just ring the bell and recommend you book a consult. Okay, let's keep zipping through here. Nishant says, hey, Mark, how are you? Thanks for your wonderful sessions. I got my PR back in April this year. That is awesome. There's some applause for Nishant. That is awesome. Thank you so much for connecting. Oh, man, you guys, it just makes me so happy to know that I'm actually making a difference. And when you guys take the time to come on my lives and to give me a shout out and those expressions of appreciation, my goodness, it means more to me than you could ever imagine. So thank you. I really appreciate it. All right. Let's see here. So let's go to the next. All right. So next one is, okay. Katamba says, Mark, is it late to apply for a study permit for January or 1st of November, 2022? January, we're September already, right? So September, October, November, December, January. No, it's not too late. And you can see the processing times generally across the board are 12 weeks. But you do not want to wait, Katamba. You don't. You want to move forward as quickly as you possibly can. Okay. Zakaria says, okay, as a visitor in Canada, is it possible to change from visit visa to permanent resident? Well, yeah, it is possible. I guess that's the short answer. All right. Okay, Nishant's got a question for a sibling. If a study permit was rejected twice in 2018, because of a low IELTS score, is there any chance he will get the study permit once he applies again with improved score? Yes, there is a chance, but you have to you have to recognize that those barriers, whatever the barriers were to refusal, if you've addressed them, then it gives you more of a fresh shot at getting it approved. They also look at success in academics. And I recently refiled a study permit for an individual who had applied twice, maybe 3 times before, had low scores, but also didn't do as well in school. And in that case, as I explained to them, the likelihood of getting that approved is not super, super high. So the best time, you guys, and I'll repeat this over and over again, but the best time that you can ever book a consult and seek assistance from our firm is before you submit your first application. If you submit it and it gets refused, then right off the bat, it becomes that much harder for us to try to fix it. So whatever you do, if you're thinking about applying, book a consult with us first so that we can give you tips and pointers that are specific to your situation to help strengthen and increase your chances of getting your application approved the first time. That is what we do. Okay, next up here, this question is from Kanjan. And he says, hey, Mark, what's the possible impact for the employer when applying the ONP for the employee? Well, there's no impact really. Ultimately, it either gets approved or it doesn't get approved, but it doesn't impact on the employer in any way. If they make within the process saying that they're going to support someone for permanent residence in that province, well, then, and if it's Ontario, but it applies equally to all the PNPs, then there's an expectation that the employer will abide by the things that they said they were going to abide by. But there is never anything forcing an employer to keep someone employed if they're not a good employee. They can always sever the relationship. And that's sometimes what employers don't realize, is that if circumstances change, or there's, heaven forbid, there's some other, downturn in the economy and they have to let people go, having an ONP application in the queue, or an Alberta one, or BC, or the, any of the maritime provinces, whatever, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, it does not matter. You can still, basic employment requirements apply, and, employment standards apply. So if if the position isn't working out, they can terminate based on, whatever terms are built into the employment agreements, or whatever notice periods apply at common law or through provincial employment standards legislation. So, okay. Mamadou says, good evening, sir. I applied for a study permit since 26th of April, 22, but till now I didn't get a feedback. What should I do now? Because I'd start my study in September. Yeah, this is it. I will ring the bell right here, and I will tell you, just like everybody else in these situations, what do I do? Slide over here, click on speak to a lawyer. It'll take you here, and then book a consult with one of the lawyers in the firm. Okay. All right. Next question. Okay. Harsh says, hey, Mark, any news on the new PR pathways for temporary workers? Okay. So we've had this discussion a lot. We know that, good old motion 44 there, and you can just follow whatever. You can follow CIC News. They seem to do a pretty good job of keeping people apprised of what's going on. And so I'll give them credit for that. Ultimately, rumbling on the street, and from what we've heard and what we've seen, is that probably next week. So it's going to be brought forward when cabinet sits again, and when the house sits again. And I suspect that details will probably be announced. Some are saying September the 20th. So likely next week when the House resumes sitting. And so, it's interesting to think about that whole motion 44, because remember, this is a private member's motion. And when that happens, the minister doesn't have to comply. But in this case, Minister Fraser, obviously he's going to comply. Why? Because it was his own party, the Liberals, Liberal MP that brought it forward, and other Liberal MPs that supported it. So clearly it's quite interesting and unique to see them do that within their own party. Usually you just work through your channels in the background. You don't bring forward those private members' bills. But we think probably around September 20th, but stay tuned, because the moment that is released, any details, trust me, you will see a DIY course that's being created. And I've said this so many times before, you guys, but the courses that I create are specifically designed to help you guys avoid the problems, to make sure that you get it approved the first time so that you're not missing out on opportunities. And if I slide back here, you'll see that the postgrad 18-month extension course is still alive and well, and it will be available, well, for as long as you can apply, which is the end of this year, December 31st. So make sure you head over there and look at the course material that's in here. And on each of these pages, I have a breakdown of what's covered and the things that we're going to talk about. And yeah, so definitely head over there. There's also links below to my next upcoming Express Entry course. So you can see, you can read whatever the testimonials and stuff. I don't know if anybody here who TR to PR course, Shelly. Yeah. Anyways, you can see some of the testimonials there. Spousal sponsorship course launches October the 17th. And then if you scroll down here, the Express Entry course, which the link is below, is next week. So that's when the next Express Entry course is. So highly, highly recommend that you jump in here. And I've talked about this a lot. If you're new to the live stream, you can scroll right here, and there's a link in the description on the YouTube channel. So if you go here to today's live, let's just go to slide back here, go to home, and then in our live today, I will stop this right here. If you scroll down the description, you can see that there's all the information that you need is right here. Submit your questions for the next live, book an immigration consultation, and then all of the do-it-yourself courses are here. But remember, these are not just do-it-yourself. They come with a master class. And you can see that master class is 4 hours of intensive Q&A, diving deep into whatever aspect the students of that particular master class want. The spousal also is here. Postgrad is here. LMIA, QET course. Those are just some of the offerings that we have. But when it comes to the Express Entry course, I really highly recommend that you subscribe now so you can start going through the videos. All of that video content amounts, if you scroll down to the very bottom here, to over 642 minutes. That's like 10 hours of content. And then the 4 hours of live masterclass. And this is the breakdown of all the videos associated with it. But the masterclass itself for Express Entry starts on Monday the 19th. At least I believe it's the 19th. Yes. So Monday through Thursday. So keep that in mind, you guys, because this is the next offering. And wow, we had a fantastic group the last time. And some of these folks that are on here right now have taken those courses with me and benefited from the master classes. So lots of on-demand content where you can go at your own pace. But when the master classes happen, that's where you queue up all those questions. So yes, so any news on the new PR pathway? Ultimately, the one focused for international students and developing channels for them. Stay tuned for next week. Okay. All right. Actually, I think, okay. So Armit here says I'm in the Express Entry pool with 478 outside of Canada. I also sat for IELTS. It is logical to wait for an ITA, or I should proceed and have university application approved. That's 100% Armita a consult. So please just slide over and trust me in this consultation process. We can help you to sort out exactly the direction that you should go and explain to you and educate you why we are giving the advice that we're giving. So I recommend you slide over there. Okay, I know we've got some supers and we're definitely going to hit those. So let's see, we've got Reshmi's back with another super. Okay. Okay, so OINP application submitted, might get EE draw, but spouse not added. Thought of adding spouse after nomination for the OINP. Shall I wait for OINP or accept the ITA? Okay, if you have an invitation to apply, I'm just trying to sort out exactly what you mean by that. But yeah, if you get an invitation to apply, you're going to accept it and you're going to move forward, right? In terms of the OINP and adding a spouse, you do have the ability after that OINP to add your spouse into your profile. So you do have the ability to do that. But when the nomination comes, you need to make sure that you add your spouse in to your profile as soon as possible. But Reshmi, this is something I think we've talked about in the past. It's been a while since I've heard from you, but I strongly recommend that you book a consult so that we can help you to navigate your way through it. Have we done it with other clients before? Absolutely, we have. But you need to be careful how you structure it because you don't want to lose your nomination from the OINP if you get it. Now, ultimately, I see that you don't have it yet, so you're still waiting. So you're kind of in a waiting game. Okay, can I make changes in the work experience in my profile after accepting the nomination for the ONP? Like remove work which doesn't add any points to my score? Absolutely you can, if you do it correctly. So those are two, yes, you can absolutely do that. Okay, let's jump back to a few more questions here as we're winding our way down to the end. Okay, let's see here. I don't want to skip anyone. Trying to figure out where I left off. Okay, I think we are here. Okay, RS says, if I receive a job offer eligible under the Alberta Accelerated Tech Pathway, do I have then to apply for a work permit first or apply for the Tech Pathway PNP first? I'm an overseas candidate. Okay, well, you're going to apply. Okay, so if you received a job offer, you're going to apply through the Tech Pathway. In the context, once you get your nomination from Alberta, they will also often issue an R204C letter, which basically is the letter that you use to then apply for your work permit. So first PR, so first the nomination application through the Tech Pathway. Remember, you need to have your profile in the pool. And then once you get that approved, then you will get that authorization letter to then allow you to apply for the work permit. It's not super straightforward, RS, but ultimately that's kind of the steps that go. And yeah, I'm in Alberta, right? So I'm happy to help you. Alicia and I are both in Alberta. Cedric and Schnell are in Ontario, but we can help you with that for sure. Okay, Ashutosh, same story here. I'm going to recommend you book a consult so we can dive into this. Okay, Kutan says, hey, hi again, Mark. Are these draws, notifications of interest, occupation-based? No, they're not. I'm an immigration officer, NOC 1228 in my home country, and I can't wait to move there and clear that humongous backlog. That's hilarious. Yes. Well, they've got more issues than just hiring more people. That's for sure. But it's government, right? It's not private industry. And when it's government, there's lots of waste. There's lots of inefficiencies, and they're just not designed to work as efficiently as private-based companies. That's why every company in the whole country has, very quickly returned to normal operations when IRCC is still stumbling. It's because they're not good business people when it comes to running actual programs, because they're not incentivized to make a profit and to remove waste. So it's just not great. Okay. But these draws are still no program specified, as you can see. Okay. Niranjan says, can a person with two study permit refusals go for C11 work permit? Well, you can always make those efforts. You can always apply, but boy, once you've got a couple refusals in, on your file, it becomes increasingly difficult with every future application. Okay, Manuela says, how long does it take for your application to be processed after biometrics? I encourage you to slide right over here and look up yourself, because I have no clue what application you're talking about, processing times for IRCC, and you can search by whatever type of application that you're submitting. That's how you do it. Okay, next question here. This one is from Jenny, and Jenny says, a link to TR to PR class, please. Okay, so I will absolutely, Jenny, I will share that link when the government announces any specific details on it. So absolutely, I will be happy to share any information that I know. But as soon as we get details, trust me, I will be doing a live video to talk about it, to break it down. And within literally a day or two, I will have the actual course turned around. Now, one thing to note with this new TR to PR is that it will, TR to PR, who knows if it's exactly like that, but the biggest thing is to realize it will, it will not be like the previous TR to PR where you basically have to file within a day if you're an international grad. It won't be that way. You'll have time. All right, Andy, good to see you, my friend. A consultant over in Ottawa. Good to have you connecting in. And Mamadou says, what about the fees about booking consultation, Canadian immigration? Just go to our site. All of the fees are all set out right there. All you have to do is click on here. You can see that we charge $315 for a 25-minute consult. Chanel's $189. Cedric is, $231, and I'm also $315. And that includes tax for Alberta. So it's all on there. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you so much for tuning in. Great live today. And I hope that you guys have been able to benefit from it. we will see you again tomorrow. I have to check. I think I'm going to be able to do the live with Alicia tomorrow. And tomorrow's live with Alicia, you can always go, and I recommend that you go to the YouTube channel, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you have that you're notified when we go live. And if you look here, you can see this is the one that we're doing now, live now. Tomorrow's, make sure that you click on this button to get yourself notified. And we're going to talk about job titles not matching the knock, which we get a lot of questions on that. All right. Okay. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in and have a wonderful Wednesday. Let's see what happens with the draw. Take care, everybody.